What up, my cheese army? How y'all doing? A video game movie about an Android app or an iTunes app called Angry Birds, which came 6 years late, by the way. In fact, I was an Angry Birds fan, like everyone else. I loved Angry Birds. I bought plushies, for God's sake. I mean, I loved Angry Birds. In fact, I was so hyped when they announced the movie 6 years ago. So when I was like, it's gonna be 6 years, when people said, hey, you're gonna watch the movie 6 years from now? Yeah, I'm gonna be in grade 12. I'm gonna enjoy myself. Now I'm kind of tired of waiting after 2 years, and I'm like, okay, well, there's an Angry Birds movie, let's just check it out and see if the hype was worth living. Because I never played the game since 2012. It's been 4 years since I played the game. And this movie, despite all the negative criticism, I can't really say any minimal things negative about this movie. This movie is absolutely fine. In fact, kids would enjoy this movie just as I enjoyed this movie. This movie starts off, you know, the basic premise of Angry Birds. Angry Birds hate pigs because they stole the eggs. They pretty much do that aspect as you see in trailers, but another subplot, Red, an angry bird. You know the red bird? Yeah, he's pissed. His name is Red. He doesn't fit in. He goes to anger management classes because the whole town thinks that he is just not controlling his anger that much. So he goes out, tries to figure out how to solve his anger, but of course he has a negative attitude toward everything. You see this throughout the whole movie. And after he goes out, tries to calm himself, and then of course pigs come in. They're new to the Angry Bird land, so everyone's like, oh, these pigs, what are they? And then what do they want with us? And of course there's elaborate plans to steal eggs, and that's your premise, and the birds have to take the eggs back. You've seen this in the trailer, and honestly I think the trailers did spoil it just a bit because that's the basic premise of the story. Sorry. But despite that, this movie has a lot going for it. This movie is funny. In fact, I chuckled a lot in this movie when I was watching it. And the soundtrack of this movie is amazing. I never say anything about the soundtrack, but the soundtrack, the Angry Birds soundtrack just did more dramatically. I was like, that took me back. I was like, whoa. That's a sick soundtrack. That's damn. You guys went all out. In fact, the animation in this movie is flawless. I mean, this, okay, there's animations where they just cheap shot. They just like, yo, like Norm of the North. Just like, you know what? We're going to like have pretty much an animation where we don't give a shit. This movie, that's what I thought was going to be, actually didn't do that. They actually tried. They actually tried to animate this movie to be an Angry Birds movie that everyone wanted to be. The animation is flawless, and the vibrant colors. In fact, kids will love it. In fact, I loved it. And the characters who played them, you obviously notice their voices. Sometimes when like Chuck or the yellow bird is talking, you're like, yo, that's Josh Gad. I mean, come on, that sounds like Josh Gad. Or like Jason Sudeikis, who plays the red bird. You notice these voices, and if you're like me, who knows a lot of people, you're like, I know that guy. I mean, he's alright, but like, I know that guy. You know, like, it's nice to see voice actors who like you don't know about, or like when you hear them, you're like, oh, like, who is that? Like, that sounds really good. Or, you know, it sounds bad. Whatever. The point is, like, if you know a voice actor, it kind of destroys the movie just a bit. Moving from that obviously bad fact that I said, this movie has comedy to it, and rude humor as they advertise. It actually is a bit rude humor. It's not like when they swear, but when they're like, oh, pluck you, or this plucker, or something like that. They never actually say the F word or the S word or something like that. They always, and when they say son of a, they just say son of a. They don't say the B word. So it's like that, and I feel like that's the rude humor there. But sometimes they have like sex jokes and dirty jokes. I'm like, guys, you just went too far. This is a kid's movie, not an adult movie. And if it was, you see Sausage Party. I mean, that movie's coming on this summer. I'm excited for that movie, though. Besides that very fact, the voice actors and so forth, and how the movie goes, some of the plot points are not as great. I thought the plot point was pretty simple at first, but then they just kept on adding on. It felt like, hey, we're gonna do this. I'm just gonna go on and go on and go on. It's like, well, you could have a coherent, I mean, it's Angry Birds, I mean, they could have a coherent plot hole, but then again, that premise is really small. That's why it's called an Android or game app. Literally, you don't need any knowledge or prior experience like Black Ops, where you're like, oh, what enemy do we have? Who is it? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, hey, Pigs stole our eggs. We were hungry. Yeah, we need to kill pigs. And take our eggs, of course. And this movie didn't have a lot to work with. That's why they had that red subplot. And the jokes don't land all the time. I feel like it made me chuckle. It just didn't make me like, oh my god. And if you're an Angry Birds fan, or I used to be an Angry Birds fan like me, it's a nice throwback. Honestly, when I saw this movie, I thought, oh my god, I recognize that. Oh my god, they actually have that. Damn, I remember that. I never used that. Oh my god. They did the powers right. They did everything right. And if you're an Angry Birds fan, then you're gonna love this movie. In fact, the inner fan in me liked this movie. And if you're not a fan, you might actually don't like this movie or have a slight hate toward it. And I agree with that. Really, this movie is for kids, parents who have to take their kids, or Angry Birds fans. It's fan service. And they did it. I thought, well, bottom line is this movie has a lot of rude humor that I think that they should have like disregarded, because this is a kids movie. I mean, you don't need to have rude humor. Honestly, I was like, oh my god, they did it. But kids are gonna be like asking their parents like, yeah, what does that mean? It's like, yeah, ask your dad. That's pretty much this rude humor. And really, I think that is the issue, and the fact that some of the plot holes are there, and you realize like, hey, you could have played that better, or the cliches that exist. Besides all that, if you're an Angry Birds fan, or a kid who just loves Angry Birds for some reason, or you know, there's not a lot of kids movies out there. I mean, there's X-Men Apocalypse, but you know, there's not a lot of kids movies out there. Watch this. Honestly, it's better than Ratchet and Clank, in my opinion. I didn't review that, but it's better than Ratchet and Clank. So anyway, this is my review. I think I'll give it a 3.6 out of 5. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's still great. I think critics are bashing it just a bit too hard. So yeah, I mean, and it's a basic plot, so I feel like it is funny at times, and definitely enjoy it. So bottom line is, so check this out. Hey, are you a pan? Is it pan? Damn, no, I said, are you a fan of the Angry Birds lore, or what's your favorite Angry Bird? Comment below and let me know. Like this video, and I'll see you next time.